good evening to everyone, and welcome to today's webinar by Knowlathon. I'm glad to have you all with us for From Reactive to Predictive, the Future of IT Operations with AIOps webinar. So before I start, let me start with a quick question. How many of you have experienced this? Like on your system, the alert comes in, then the another one, then another, and before you know it, the IT team or your team is trying to figure out which alert actually matters and what is causing the problem and what needs to be fixed first. So, have you experienced this? You can raise your hands if you have experiences like this. Okay. Right. So you all could relate to it. And I think that's the reality of modern IT operations. Because businesses are collecting more and more operational data than ever. Whereas having more data does not necessarily mean that having more insights. And I think that's the shift we will be exploring today. With by how do you like you can how you will learn in this webinar that how do you move from simply reacting to incidents to becoming more proactive and predictive with AIOps. Over the next hour, we'll look at how AI can help in terms of identifying patterns, detecting potential issues earlier, accelerating the root cause analysis, and ultimately making the IT operations smarter. So I'll ask Vishal sir to move to next slide. Yeah. So before we begin, just a quick introduction to Knowlathon for the people who are new here. Knowlathon started in 2018 with focus on best practice learning solutions for teams as well as individuals. Since then, we have grown to support 40,000 plus learners with 250, plus training and certifications offerings and more than 80% repeat customer business. Because for us, learning is not just about completing a course. It's about helping professionals learn, apply, and keep growing as technology and businesses needs evolve. And today's conversation around AI ops is very much part of that evolution. Next, sir. It's saying that we are also proud with and be associated with several globally recognized organizations and certification bodies, such as we are golden partner for PeopleCert. Then we are PMI authorized training partner, the Open Group, Comcia, Linux Professional Institute, and many others. On the screen, you can see these partnerships strengthen our ability to bring industry recognized learning and practical knowledge to professionals across technology and business domains. So, with these partnerships, you get all the certifications associated with all the certified trainers associated with. Next, sir. Yeah, and now it's time to introduce our today's speaker. We have Mr. Vishal Kulkarni, sir, with us today. He brings 19 plus years of IT experience with extensive experience across enterprise IT service management, banking, ERP, and product-based organizations. His experience spans areas including ITSM, DevOps, SRE, service management, project and product management, as well as agile practices too. So he brings a broad enterprise perspective to today's discussion. So I welcome Vishal sir. Welcome to the webinar and over to you.
Thank you very much, and I hope you can hear me good and clear.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. Without a quick round of introduction, thank you very much, everyone, for taking time out and joining this quick learning about AI, artificial intelligence in operations now. Yeah, somebody's raising the hand.
Yeah, they might be giving the reaction to the first question. Yeah.
Okay.
We will take the
So,
Q&As in the end of the session. If you
absolutely.
have any queries, you can put it in the Q&A box.
Absolutely. So, thank you very much, everyone. And in today's context, we are talking about AI everywhere, not a single instance wherein or probably not a single day wherein we don't hear about AI. And today I'm just going to give you a brief background around artificial intelligence in AI, how organizations are really picking up on AI, especially into the operations aspect of it. Now, considering all the aspects, the technology patterns which is picking up, the way ID service management is changing, and typically the overall agility which is getting experienced across the organization, it makes a lot of sense that time to market has to be real quick. In the similar fashion, the way you are monitoring your systems, predominantly we are moving towards observability that is more inclined towards the proactiveness, wherein before system goes down, right, we should identify where are the things wrong, and then subsequently we are taking, our teams are taking the corrective actions. Now looking at this, let's have a quick round of poll, right? Maybe you can use your chat windows. There are two questions which I'm going to talk about over here, right? Where we stand as on day to day, as per your organization, wherein you are either reactive, you are more alert driven, you are more proactive, you are more predictive. So that will set up some context in terms of you analyzing your own organization, the way operations are getting managed into your own organization. So maybe anybody and everybody, right? Maybe you can categorize your current operations, the nature of operations, whether you're still reactive, wherein, we mostly respond after the incident occurs, which is like typical traditional reflection. Alert driven is like we detect quickly, but investigation is still manual. Subsequently proactive, which should be the case with majority of the organization, wherein we use the baseline. We are moving beyond monitoring. We are inclined more towards observability, and pretty much we have the automation. And predictive is typical example could be your Netflix chaos monkeys kind of, when we anticipate the risk before it really creates the impact on the customers. So maybe you can use the chat window just to respond where your organization stands as on date today, especially on the ID operations aspect of it. Either it could be one, two, three, or four.
Um, Attendees, you can use Q&A box to answer this poll. Chat is turned off for the session.
And then possibly I would give you one more opportunity in terms of, or rather I would ask you one more question stating that, okay, uh, predominantly you're coming from the different domains, the different organizations. uh, your organizations, as we understand, right, organization has its own definition, a group of people who are coming together to achieve a common objective. That is how we understand our organization. And every organization, they have their own ways of executing or managing the operations. They have their own set of products and services. So typically, do you have any observations in terms of what are the top, probably one single pain point which you have seen or you have experienced, which you would like AI ops to solve? That's my second question. Any major operational challenges which are a pain point into your operations which you need AI ops to resolve or possibly solve? Always remember, people, when you really adopt, your organizations are adopting AI, right? Your maturity is not, cannot be revealed in terms of the number of AI tools what you have adopted. It's all about the real effectiveness. An organization converts their operational data into the, which can be used for better decision making, and taking the subsequent actions on that. Typically, based on my experiences, I have pretty much, uh, seen the alert fatigues, right? Or possibly I can subsequently say that, the root cause analysis is pretty slow, or possibly we have presence of too much of, or too many tools which we have. Or pretty much I have seen some of the complex organizations who are in, especially into payments domain or banking domain, right? Typically, you may see the noisy dashboards, or typically, people do not have any context, or there is a lot of rework wherein the repetitive incidents are occurring, and subsequently, that is really creating the disturbance to the entire organization. Now, pretty much you maybe your organizations maybe somewhere in the range of 1 to 3. Pretty much there are very few organizations who are moving from proactive to predictive. That is a good up, or there is going to be a good opportunity in terms of organizations adopting the next level of maturity, provided they identify the relevant tools, which AI tools, which can be really create the effectiveness and efficiency, right? Which really allows them to be more proactive and then subsequently move or incline towards more predictive substantially over the period of time. Now, as we move on, right? This is a kind of a today's journey, right? And this is what we are going to take a look at it in subsequent discussions, which we'll be having in next few slides. So I'm going to give you some quick round of introductions on in terms of those concepts, so on and so forth, which will set up some context. And typically, if you look at it, we have really complex kind of organizations who are experiencing the alert fatigues, reactive responses. This is a typical traditional monitoring systems which used to exist in some of the organization. They still exist, but some of the organization like Netflix, right, pretty much, or Amazon for that matter, they are pretty much proactive in terms of taking the corrective actions. They are more more proactive and moving towards more productive kind of setup what they are moving into. We'll also take a look at in terms of how AIOps is changing the operating model, wherein we have anomaly detection, predictions, and these are the typical areas which we experience when we, really learn about how the AIOps is really getting, AI is really getting reflected into the operations aspect of it. Most important is RCA, right? Without RCA, none of our work is getting completed, right? If it includes your incident, it includes your problems, it includes your defects which are getting reported, and everybody is having their own ways of doing the RCS subsequently over the period of time. Definitely, every organization is staying focused on business value, wherein they are trying to reflect more on the reliability, efficiency, and try and stay focused on the customers, right? This is typically a reflection what we hear about from scaled agile framework, wherein they are their entire framework is more inclined towards the customer customer satisfaction, or they call that concept as a customer centricity, right? Wherein they want their teams to stay aligned, how they can really quickly understand the requirements from the customer, and then subsequently take the proactive approaches to have a seamless kind of a experience to their customers on their product and services. That is a objective of every of the organization, and the moment they lose this business value, right, typically in today's context, these organizations are moving out of the market, and we have a lot of experiences, we have a lot of examples which we have seen in the past, wherein organizations who have lost their customer centricity, or they really struggle to identify what our customers are looking out for. Take an example of Nokia, which used to lead the world on their cell phones. Today, in certain cases, in past, they declined to adopt Android, and the way they, Samsung devastated them, right? They are completely out of the market now. And then subsequently, typically this AI reflection is more inclined, more getting adopted into the banking, more adaptation of cloud changes the way we are making the changes, because of the technology which is evolving, and the kind of a capacity what we are looking out for, right? So that's the typical reflection what we have, as part of the industry, and that is the focus area what we will be having in today's conversation. We are never ever saying that the traditional, it's just like agile, right? Some of the training programs which I have attended in the past, They always, during their training programs or during their conversations, in common forums, they always say that, Agile is uh, needed because the waterfall way of doing the software development is typically bad. It's not the case. To a specific context, if you look at it, even traditional model really worked well for some of the earlier solutions what we have been using. But subsequently, the technology is changing. The expectation of the customers are changing. They are more expecting more quick solutions before customers are, asking for it. It is more or less a futuristic view what they are looking out for. In a similar manner, if you look at it, the the operations aspect of it and the way we were managing our operations in the past, the traditional operations, the way we used to monitor it, the way we used to execute it, it is very unfair to say that the traditional monitoring was bad or it is bad. It is just that we have the environment, we are more dealing with the dynamism. We are more dealing with the new technologies which are coming into picture. And subsequently you may experience, right? Yeah, if you look at your past, right, you had few major platforms, you have more static infrastructure, you have very specific monitoring tools. And I still remember, right, when I used to deal with the banking customers, right, in the past, in our own data centers in US, right, we used to have only one single monitoring tool, Nagios. But subsequently, over the period of time, and that was the only tool, which was like a very basic tool, which used to be made available, and we used to have very specific, banking customers whose environment we used to monitor it subsequently, which is high value kind of a customer. And typically, all the activities used to take place in a manual manner. But subsequently, if you look at today's context, typically, the way we are managing our data centers, it is typically, organizations are less investing into the physical servers, more emphasis on cloud, multi-cloud kind of adoption. If I take an example of Walmart, right, they call it as a multi-cloud, region-wise kind of a setup which they have made it available. And subsequently, the communication between the east coast and west coast, right, it is typically they're talking about the communication which will set up or which will transmit the overall information will not be more than 13 milliseconds. And now that is a kind of a infrastructure what we are looking at it. Similarly, the traditional project or the product architecture which we have seen in the past, right, it was more monolithic kind of architecture wherein if you have to initiate a change, then entire application has to you have to bring it down, and then subsequently you have to put the maintenance page, and then all the activities will happen of the deployment in the background, which is completely in manual manner. And then subsequently the after the validation and everything, maintenance pages will taken out, and that is how customer will experience the new product and services. But in today's context, we talk about canary kind of a deployments wherein we have typically we have ways wherein we are dealing with a clustered kind of environments. We have JVM setup, multiple JVM setup. Our application architecture itself is moving from the monolithic architecture to microservices, which is more or less, we are creating the services based kind of infrastructure, which allows the customers to have a seamless experiences of those services. And typically any services which are under maintenance, right, the other services will remain intact. They will not have any impact the way we used to have it in the past. And subsequently that is the containerization Kubernetes based kind of infrastructure what has been supplemented subsequently over the period of time, and that is allowing us to provide the world class experience with the modern services to our customers, which probably can be executed with a continuous change which needs to be implemented at any point in time. Typically, the if I have to really summarize this, it is typically all about uh, we are more develop we are innovating more systems. These are not the standalone systems. These are typically interconnected systems, and it is not offered by a single organization. It is offered by multiple organizations. If you take an example of your Make My Trip, right? Typically, they don't own anything, right? It is all about they are just demonstrating the front end, wherein you can either do a hotel booking, flight booking, railway booking, whatever you want it. And typically, the service providers, their applications, their front end systems are so well connected with the third party systems, right? They are pulling that information within few fractions of seconds, right? And that's a kind of a infrastructure what we are experiencing substantially over the period of time. So this is typically a dynamic world. This is typically a world wherein we are seeing accelerated kind of responses to the request what our customers are making for, and overall, right? It is all about built, using the intelligence, or these are the intelligence systems what we are experiencing substantially over the period of time. In today's context, right, if anything is not working, we need the solution immediately, right? And everything is urgent. Everything is, needs to be resolved immediately. And typically, if you look at it, right, when we look at, site reliability engineering, I'm not sure if anybody who is really aware of site reliability engineering, which was innovated by Google, right, wherein they are trying to bring in typical reflection of DevOps, right, wherein they are trying to have more, a single person who can be part of the operations as well as the forward development, right? And typically, there are certain specifics which are associated with it. But typically, if you look at it, the way we are looking at the set of applications, the way the organizations they are monitoring their systems, the way they have created their alert systems. This is a typical example of what we get to see, wherein you can just take an example of one database connection. Uh, is a problem or probably a cause to causes of CPU, memory, API latency, timeout, and the application error alerts. The monitoring systems which really works at the back end, right? The monitoring tools may find out this operationally. We can find out these are the kind of areas which is typically getting reflected, but the typical reflection in the traditional systems what we are experiencing is the human bottlenecks, right? Wherein they acknowledge, because there is a lot of instances wherein uh, you know uh, they are setting up the alerting systems, and sometimes it happens to be a case that there are too many alerts which are getting generated. Some of the alerts they are not not important for them. There is a typical strategy what we have, wherein we are parking all those alerts into some other folders. We ignore those alerts, right? And then subsequently, the alerting systems which has been generated, right? We may find duplicate alerts getting generated. Sometimes we fail to acknowledge those alerts. We have filtrations, what I was talking about, and it becomes a little difficult when you look at the traditional mechanism, which is completely needing the human intervention in place, right? There typically it becomes very difficult in terms of we deciding what really matters to us, right? It is typically, we are still not able to uh, find out the real data points, right? There are very it is not the case that we don't have any data points. We have more data points. uh, the objective of collecting those data points is to take the corrective action, and possibly our customers should experience fewer interruptions, which currently is getting executed, or in the past, for majority of the organization it was getting executed manually. But typically in a regular scenario, right, when we talk about, I've seen the uh, sarcastically, I can make that statement that I've seen the brighter side of the IT service management. The moment a incident is been reported, actually incident is been reported by the customers, right? Typically, what we have seen, at 10 of 5, we have deployments completed. 10, 12, we have customer checkout slows. and all of a sudden within next 9 minutes of time frame, right, there are alerts which are completely occupying the mailboxes of individuals, and could be, it may be indicating different symptoms, right? The way it is getting reflected, right? Maybe you have API latency, CPU high, DB connections, timeouts, pod restarts. We have 500 errors. These are the typical errors what I've seen, and I used to hate those screens, right? 500 internal ISC, right? Internal server error, right? Network latency. This is a typical challenge what we used to face in the past, but in today's context, we are talking about milliseconds now, right? So that is achievable because of the presence of the cloud, right? But not everything can be deployed into the cloud, right? We have certain security concerns. There are a lot of regulations which are coming into picture. For an example, you may have the DPDP, data privacy, data protection kind of alerts, and then subsequently these are the controls which are put in place so that we protect the sensitive data of our customers, and we can still use those cloud environments. But still, that is a different question to be discussed later on. But if I give you this particular scenario, right, 437 alerts which has been generated for one single instances, what do you think? Which signal would you investigate first, and what could be the reason? And those signals probably API latency, CPU high, or these are the nine options, which you need to select it. What do you think? What could be the first investigation point for you? And typically it is nowadays, right? If you look at it, the way we are experiencing the systems, the way we are using the systems now, typically we are using the distributed systems, right? Uh, Maybe there would be certain areas which you would be staying focused depending on the context in which your systems are designed. Uh, it's always important to, if you have those systems or monitoring capabilities manual, right, you may have these nine options the moment incident has been raised, and you have 437 alerts, right? These are the typical nine options which gets, which starts lingering in your head, right? And you're still trying to figure it out manually in terms of what could have gone wrong, right? Typically, as we move on, right, this is a typical graph based on my understanding and my experience in the past. The kind of dependencies what I've seen. This is typically called as a the topology. And when I talk about a topology, it is definitely a relationship map of the environments, and it certainly tells us what depends on what, right? So typically, this is what I have seen. If you are dealing with a standalone kind of applications, then are probably distributed, which has a limited kind of a sources or source, or or probably a target. Maybe you may have APIs. Probably they are pretty much slow. Uh, and if you really look at it, then you may really need to understand the customer journeys, your API gateways, your checkout services. You may, the moment you talk about the checkout services, either it could be a external payment systems, or probably it could be the internal database, right? Now, if you look at it, typically this is how we use the customer journeys, right? In our application context. And if I really need to understand this, the way we understand or way we correlate this topology or the different components of this topologies, uh, typically your AIOps platform can look beyond the immediate services, and not there is a little manual intervention which will be reflected. Typically, if you look at it, from the real world example aspect of it, the best could be your Dynatrace, right? Dynatrace documents, the way it is reflecting on the correlation using the ingestions or normalizations. topology creations, right? Or maybe aggregation and you know deduplications. Definitely, it certainly helps us in terms of identifying the root causes. It provides us that analysis, which allows us to evaluate the findings across casual topologies, and that's a typical reflection what we are seeing, right? And this is a typical context, which helps us to understand, moving what is the importance of we having the observations capabilities instead of, and why organizations are moving beyond the monitoring capabilities. Typically, if you look at it, the way Shraddha was talking about when she started this webinar, right? Typically moving from reactive to detective, then predictive, and then proactive, right? Uh, and this is a maturity path every organization is looking out for, wherein the goal is not to have AI everywhere. The goal is more towards moving the intervention points earlier, right? If you look at reactive, it is all about the incident occurs and then team starts reacting to it, right? It is more reactive. Detective is typically you have seen the anomaly detection, right? The investigations aspect of it, the team gets a better detection for the abnormal behavior of the systems as quickly as possible. The third maturity stage, as part of this particular shift, is more predictive, wherein risk patterns are detected. The system identifies a pattern that historically precede an incident, or probably forecast future threshold capacity problems. And typically, you look at the trace files, so on and so forth, which is, more reflection of the observability. And proactive is like preventing, right? Wherein organization uses that particular information to intervene before the customer impacts. And typically that is, I always talk about this during the discussions wherein, every organization they talk about, the Netflix strategy, right? But you know what? They want to achieve this for their own applications and services, product and services. They want to have this Netflix strategy implemented in next 2 or 3 months of time frame. But at the background is somewhere they don't realize it, right? Wherein they need to invest time, they need to invest a dollar amount, they need to invest into infrastructure, they need to hire some knowledgeable resources, and they need to investigate. They don't need to investigate, rather they need to ingest the errors into the systems, observe what could be the impact of that, and then subsequently what could be the probable solutions, and then can we automate those probable solutions. So in today's context, right, if any of the nodes, right, and in the Netflix context, any of the node, if it is down at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, right, they don't need any manual intervention, right? The systems will auto recover, and that auto recovery is not a lengthy procedure. That auto recovery is like within few fraction of seconds, right? It gets auto recovered, and that is how it is been set up as an example, which indicates the proactive operations, which is getting reflected substantially over the period of time. And every organization wants to embark their journey on that, right? It is very unfair to say that our organizations, they are pretty much demonstrating, or they are doing the investments into the AI, wherein they are saying that uh, they are getting into the trap and avoid this trap, right? Wherein we are avoiding promising that AI ops can always predict the incidents. Uh, Pretty much the way I call it is like, your AI ops can identify the patterns for you. They can find out the anomalies, and it can give you a forecast or analysis that provides a earlier decision support, which is pretty much taking the corrective action before uh, it creates the impact. That incident creates the impact on your customers, right? And today, in today's world, a single minute reflection or downtime, probably for a few fraction of seconds, I would say that the customers may start looking out for a different options. In Indian context, you have the same kind of example, right? Pretty much, if Paytm is not working, you'll try with Google Pay. Google Pay is not working, maybe you are utilizing Beam, right? But at the end of the day, if nothing works, you'll swipe your debit card or credit card, and your job is done. So this is the kind of arena what we are living in right now. Typically, as we move on, typically now let's define the AI ops in the practical terms, right? Wherein we will start looking at some of the uh, some of the basic understanding what we need to have. AIOps intelligence across the operational data fabric. Right now, when we talk about AI ops, is a use of AI and data-driven techniques to improve the ID operations by analyzing the large volume of operational signals. We identifying the patterns, correlating the events. We supporting the diagnosis, we predicting the risk, and we enabling the actions. Typically, the way these are defined, or it has been called out or summarized by Dynatrace, wherein they say that okay, AIOps as using AI to ingest data from across the stack. It allows us to identify the issues, reveal the answers, and typically it comes up with the recommendations in terms of whether you can execute anything in an automated manner, which probably will save our time. Definitely, AIOps also depends on the telemetry, topology, event intelligence, which needs to exist, statistical, machine learning, analysis, the workflows and operational controls. Typically, let's go ahead and see what the intelligence loops they look like in practice. And definitely, the AI intelligence loops, right? We have ingest, normalize, correlate. We have diagnose, predict, and act. Typically, the way we look at it, the AI should increase the decision quality, and it should not remove the accountability. And a recent example, Amazon, right? Uh, there was a glitch into the Amazon applications, which is very rare in nature, but somehow that incident occurred because of the AI generated code was, this is the based on my understanding what I have learned so far about that particular case story, which took place recently in Amazon, wherein the AI generated code was not reviewed it seems, and it was directly published into the production, and it caused some little downtime, and that was a glitch, right? Which is kind of not anticipated by the service provider like Amazon, right? Customers were not happy. Typically, nobody reported it, but typically the monitoring capabilities, observability indicated there was a downtime. And root cause was like the code which was put into the live systems that was not reviewed. It was AI generated, and immediately Amazon released a statement stating that okay, we are allowing our employees to use the AI tools to fast track their solutions to be released into the production. But going forward, it is not AI who's responsible for making that particular mistake. It's the person who is actually generating the code out of AI, right? And that's where it's all about. We're still having that accountability, right? There are a lot of rumors which are in the market wherein people think that with AI coming into picture, we probably may lose our jobs. No, it's not the case. The accountability still exists with us, and that's the crux which we need to really understand it. And it is all about this AI intelligence loops, which you really need to understand. Wherein ingest is all about we collecting the signals, normalizes, make data comparable, right? Correlate is like connect the related events. And if you look at the way AI works, right, it is a set of data sets which has been created at the background. It's us who is creating those data sets, and typically the algorithm which runs behind, right, it sets up the correlationship. That algorithm sets up the relationship between those data sets, and that is how we are getting to see. Sometimes even I get surprised, right, wherein I say that okay, I was thinking of something and all of a sudden it pops up on my social media account, right. I'm seriously get surprised with that. Definitely, the AI intelligence loop, it also includes the diagnose wherein we rank the probable causes, we predict, estimate emerging risk, and then subsequently, the sixth AI ops intelligence loops is like act wherein either the human intervention or possibly automated responses which can be taken into consideration. Now, typically, as we move on, right, the event correlation from alert storm to the actionable incidents, right, and typically our objective, typically we look at it from the perspective of can we reduce the noise, right, uh, and typically avoid some duplications of the alerts, and we get some meaningful data in our hand, right. Definitely human can correlate the signals, but if I really look at it in terms of it requires we're looking across the tools, understanding the topology or maybe a dependency graph. Uh, Typically, the correlation, we do not imply, or rather, I would say, we do not imply that any tool will always identify the correct root cause. We may always have those probable candidate or maybe hypothesis which we may take into consideration, and subsequently, our correlation, it tells us what belongs together. Typically, prediction asks whether the pattern is telling us something about what is going to come next, and these are the raw signals which we are habitual of seeing it in our monitoring capabilities, and that is how the industry is progressing further in terms of automating it further or using the predictive ways wherein they are more inclined towards adopting artificial intelligence over there. Your predictive incident detection, before it hits the threshold and it starts, your services products start showing the degradation into the services, right. Your AI can use identify, and it acts before rather it sends a signal in terms of taking the corrective action before the it hits the threshold and it starts showing the degradation, right. Typically this is the uh, earlier signals is typically is a good time in terms of analyzing it further and make sure that we with the typical data points which exists with it we take the corrective actions, right. uh, the way we understand is like before baseline deviation is detected, we before it creates the impact, the team gets time to investigate, because typically the cost of quality, I always correlate with this, right. The cost of quality, what we get to see, you fixing some problems which has been reported into the production, right, the amount of time, because everything is SLA driven. If we try and correlate that, the amount of time and the kind of a pressure what our operations teams they deal with, right, typically they may be more focused on fixing the issue because there is an impact on the customers, and it may not look at the impacts of that particular fix. They may not get that much of time, right. If you have workarounds, probably that will give you sufficient time, right. But typically workarounds may not last long, right. You need the appropriate probable complete solutions to fix that problem, and you need to make sure that your operations team needs to make sure that it should not occur in the future as well, which never happens. Very rarely it happens to be a case, but typically if I look at it, right, if you have the appropriate mechanism which investigates, which identifies the patterns, it gives you the right signals, and it gives you the signals beforehand, before it hits the threshold, and threshold is a placeholder wherein the degradation starts taking shape in the systems or the product and services. But AI can really offer you that capability wherein it gives you those signals way before it hits the threshold. That really allows the team to identify what is the cause of that, and before it hits the threshold, or rather forget about the interruption to the services, before it starts degrading those services, right, it will help you or it helps the teams to have the right set of solution in place, and that typically allows us to take a little time to investigate, find out the solution, and have that solution in place before it really creates impact on the customer implementations or product and services. AI accelerated kind of RCA wherein we are seeing uh, wherein we compress the investigation path, right? The traditional investigation, what we have seen is typically your alerts, dashboard, logs, metrics, recent changes, dependencies, and towards the end, right? Management wants to understand what is the root cause analysis, but AI accelerated is pretty much very much proactive and allowing you to move towards predictive. It is like incident context, correlated evidences, we have dependency paths, we have change history, root cause, candidates, and then we have recommended next steps as well, which has been indicated, right? And that's, there is a fantastic read if you are really interested. You may see a case story on IBM.com, right, wherein IBM gives a useful example for an observability platform, which can, and that platform can correlate the application slowing alerts with the router latency, right, or identify an unscheduled router configuration changes, right? And that's a typical case story, right, which you should really look out for. So the case story, you can find it on IBM.com. Click on think option, and then in think you have topics and AIOps observability. If you look at it, you will really understand what exactly I'm trying to set up over here. Incident challenges, what has changed, right? The example which we were talking about, you know 10 or 12, the payment services, typically 10.05 released, a new version has been deployed. 10.08, wherein the database CPU is plus 12%. 10.10 connection pool utilization is 25%. 10.12 payment latency is plus 60%. 10.13 500 error begins, and then at 10.14, right, the customer complaint starts. Now, it is all about, if I look at it, the way it has been indicated, right? What is your leading hypothesis, right? Whether it is a network failure, database exhaustion, or probably deployment related regression or traffic spike, right? Always remember that correlation is evidence, it is not certainty, right? And that's with that given set, right? What is more important? We look at it, the two important metrics, DevOps metrics, which we look at it, right? Wherein we say that, okay, MTTD, mean time to detect and mean time to resolve, where the intelligence creates the leverage from the AI perspective, right? The typical reflection, what we get to see is AIOps can potentially improve the MTTD, right, mean time to detect, by detecting the anomalies earlier and reducing the signal noise. It can potentially improve the MTTR also, wherein it reduces the time required to triage, correlate evidences, and identify the probable causes. However, we cannot really promise a fixed percentage improvement. uh, the actual benefit depends on the quality of the data what your systems are generating, uh, the operating processes which exists within the organization. uh, I would further go ahead and talk about it as a process efficiency, because if you are automating, see, automating the processes is fantastic, right? But if you're automating bad processes, it is going to create more problems. So first you have to fix your bad processes. So definitely, you need to identify what is your process maturity, as well as, further to that, what is your maturity, process automation maturity, and then incident complexity, and the way team has adopted it, right? So typically, uh, you know uh, this is a typical reflection what we get to see from Google SRE, right? Wherein they specifically call out that MTTR can be poorly suited to some decision making context and should be interpreted thoughtfully, right? So that's typical reflection what they have with the SRE adoption. The typical incident life cycle, what we have seen is detect, triage, investigate, and resolve, right? But we always, forget about the MTTDs and MTTR. Typically, in new contexts, that is with AI ops coming into picture, right? The lever one is like earlier anomaly detection. Lever two is faster triage correlation, and subsequently lever three is all about faster diagnosis plus the actions uh, which comes as recommendations. Business value, if I look at it from the business value, anything which allows our customers to run their businesses seamlessly, right? It typically talks about reliability, efficiency, and resilience, right? Reliability. When I talk about service reliability, fewer customer impacting disruptions, earlier detection, and then better incident context. Operational efficiency is typically less alert triages, uh, less swill chair investigations, more engineering time for improvement. Uh, that is typically reflecting the a typical agile context over here. Business resilience, faster recovery with no or bare minimal interruptions, I would call it. Better change confidence, earlier capacity decisions, and then employee experiences. Typically, SRE talks about 25% of the time should be allocated for the on-call support, and that's a typical reflection what we have seen. But there has to be in shifts people work, right, wherein they are doing the on-call support. Their life is pretty hectic. You know, I would call it as unhuman, right? They can't go home and eat dinner, right, if they are on call. Less repetitive toil, and then better decision supports which needs to be reflected substantially over the period of time, right? So that's the uh, this is all about we selling it faster, making better decisions, taking more corrective actions, and typically allowing organizations to reflect more profits substantially over the period of time. This is a typical case story, what I can see, right, from the banking domain, especially into the payments, right? Uh, this is not an example of a specific bank, but if you look at it, payment services, the scenario, the way we should look at it, a scenario wherein a payment service begins degrading, right? The monitoring environment shows the multiple symptoms. The way AI looks at it now, right? Wherein AI operations, it correlates whether it's application latency, error rates, database connection pressures, recent deployment changes, activity, or service dependencies. And here the business context is very critical, right? A small infrastructure anomaly may become a high priority incident if it affects the payment. And typically, if you look at it, the way I have seen it in the past is like more or less the CPU usage. If it hits the 90%, the payment journey, is going to get impacted. Right? It is all about if the database CPU is at the 90%, but the payment systems or payment journey is healthy, then automatically it's your top priority, right? It's not necessary that you need to, if your systems are healthy, CPU usage, probably database CPU usage may not be correlated over here. But the moment you have the less CPU usage, but still payment systems are degrading, then definitely it's a matter of concern, and you need to really find out that. Typically, the AI reflection into the operations definitely help prioritize uh, the services according to the customer impacts, and not just the infrastructure. And typically, as we move further, this is the second use case wherein we are talking about cloud Kubernetes, understanding the cascading symptoms, right? Typically, multiple pods, auto scaling, ephemeral infrastructure, or possibly, service to service dependencies, external APIs, synchronous queues, right? This could be, the cloud native symptoms, right? Typically, your cloud native operations, it requires a relationship aware analysis because the environments are really dynamic over here, right? AI ops question, is this a local failure or cascading problems? That will help. AI ops will help in that. It will set up the context, AI ops context, in terms of identifying the topologies, looking at the traces, looking at the change histories, and typically AI ops outcomes, it is prioritize the service impacts and the likelihood or probably the causes, likely causes of those downtimes. Change impact, what has changed, right? When you look at the change, and I'm not talking about the change management, I'm talking about the change enablement, right? The new version 4.8 has been deployed. Typically this comes as a uh, once the organization understand this kind of you know when this kind of incident occurs, right, or 5 minutes after the deployment has been completed with the of the new version, it is typically, the change events, they are important. The operational signals, the modern intelligence monitoring intelligence systems can ingest the deployment, and they look at the configuration changes alongside the performance signals. AI ops really can shorten the path from something is broken to these events are changed, right? And that is where uh, you know this dependency, it takes into consideration the dependencies. It looks at what has been really affected, and the recent changes is it can really identify whether the recent change has really created any problems into the existing systems or after the change which has been deployed. AI's adoption roadmap, this is a normal question wherein we really need to understand at where we should start, and it comes to the implementation aspect of it. A foundation, the clean telemetry, service ownership, service level objectives, and critical journeys, what we need to really identify. And this is typically a reflection of your site reliability engineering, right? These are the typical concepts which are borrowed from SRE aspect of it. Stage two is, stage two at the roadmap, adoption roadmap is correlate. Event normalization, noise reduction, topology, dependency context. Stage three is going to be assist, wherein we do the high RCA hypothesis, incident summaries, recommended actions. Uh, Fourth stage is predict, wherein we forecast anomaly pattern, capacity risk, and stage five is everything is automate, right? Wherein we guardrail, uh, the remediation, closed loop workflows, continuous learning, so on and so forth. Typical suggestion is start with a business critical service, not with a tool. You first identify, and that is where I made the statement, right? Stage one is you identifying the service level objectives, which means that you need to really identify which service matters or which is the highest priority offering from your organization standpoint. Choose that service first. Now, typically, AIOps failure modes where implementation can go wrong. And these are the five common failure modes: poor data quality, poor telemetry, inconsistencies, the inconsistent ownership, missing context, automating too early because, and that too, when you really talk about, we are automating too early without fixing our bad processes first. Tool first thinking, and this is a common problem all across the organization, right? No business context, wherein we don't know, right? We are not optimizing technical noise instead of customer impact. We are paying attention to different contexts, no human feedback loop, right? Models and correlations don't improve from the operators learning, because there is no I always look at it from three C's. There is no communication, there is, rather I would call it as, there is no coordination, communication, and collaboration, and that creates a problem over here. AI recommends human, they validate it without human validation, right? Recommendations can be understood, what really works from your own context, right? Go ahead, adopt that, experiment it, and if it is working well, automate. And if it is a suitable context to you, think about the automation. And automation executes only where risk is understood, right? So this is a preliminary kind of a perspective which I can really put forward over here. The future, from AI ops to intelligence operations, definitely, uh, we need to really understand here that the more dynamic the environment becomes, the more valuable human judgment becomes. And that's the crux which you really need to understand. And this is a 5 step approach which you need to really look at it, observe, see the systems, understand, understand, explain the system, predict, anticipate the system, act, change the system, and learn. This is more on the improving the systems. And that is the reasons nowadays organizations are talking about, we are having a continuous learning culture. It is all about, we need to really understand a clear and concise message that no one can replace humans. This is not the end state. Where in organizations, the way we are predicting the future is like the end state is humans are not required at all. That is not an end state. It is humans who are spending more time on judgment, engineering, and innovation, with the technology machines handling the scale and pattern recognition, wherein multiple options, recommendations which it suggests, right? Subsequently, we need to, as a human, we need to make a best choice out of it, right? Which works in our context. And these are the key three takeaways, right? To live with. Always remember that noise is not insight. The goal is not to collect every possible alert. Uh, it is to create the actionable operational instant intelligence. The second takeaway is context creates the intelligence, wherein a signal becomes much more useful when we understand the topology, the dependencies, the recent changes, the ownership of the services, and business impact. And the last takeaway is prediction creates time, right? Uh, the great value comes from moving the intervention point earlier. And the shift is all about we monitoring to correlate to diagnose to predict to prevent, right? So that's the journey which we are staying focused on. And definitely that's I'm opening up a forum for a quick Q&A. If at all you have any question and answers, would be more than happy to do that, right?
Yes, sir. I request attendees to get your doubts cleared from the sir. If you have any doubts, you can put it in the Q&A box or you can raise the hand. I will unmute you. Then you can ask your question. By the time you guys are asking question, let me put the contact details of Knowlathon with you. If you have further queries and questions, you can reach out to us. We'll help you to get it solved. Anyone, any questions? You can raise your hand. I will unmute you. Then you can ask your question. See, we got one question from Gopal. Yes, you can ask your question.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And hi, Vishal. Thanks for this interesting information. Just wanted to check when we say AI ops. So, is it some tool or is it about infusing the AI agents into the process? So, how does it really work?
Okay, so it is not about tools, right? If you remember, Gopal, I was talking about at the initial conversation, right, wherein I said that okay, a tool is just a medium, right? You really need to understand. what is your what are your important services, right? You may majority of the organizations, right, they are not depending on the standard agents which has been made available. They are creating their own agents, so they can restrict their set of confidentiality or their data within their own systems. So to answer your question directly, it is not about a tool, right? You understanding that what you really need to monitor, observe, right? And for which services, which is your highest priority from your organization standpoint. You can check on multiple agents. Probably they will give you certain options, and you can create your own agents within your own organization to your limited vicinity, right? Which will really help you to take the corrective actions, or probably the learnings what we just had, right? Very high level learning what we had in the webinar. You can adopt that strategy and subsequently have more reflection of AI into your monitoring into your operations. So that's to answer your question directly. Specifically, it's not about a tool. It's all about what you want to monitor, what you want to really, what is your priority from the organization standpoint. Find out the options, track it, decide on the correlation, have the data analysis ready with you, and then take the subsequent corrective actions. That's the only mechanism what we have. It's nothing to do with the tools. You can choose the tools as per your needs. Gopal, make sense? Are you with
All
me?
right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yep. Most welcome. Anything else? Yes, Rendigo. Shraddha, you're on mute.
Yes, Srinidhi, you can unmute yourself. I have allowed the mic.
When Praveen is also interested, Praveen
Yeah.
Chaugale.
Hey, Vishal, thank you. Thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much.
Yep.
It's very, very insightful. Uh, a very generic question. Probably you may feel it. I'm sorry if I'm asking. But, how do you see AI ops today? Do you see it uh, at least born, or still in the baby steps, or do you see it getting matured as a boy or a girl, or do you see it as a young person today?
Okay. I would the way I'm looking at it, right? There is a lot of tools which has been adopted by the organization. It's the other way around what our organization has done. But
Mhm.
anyways, to answer your question, it is still in a baby steps. I would say that it born long time back, right? It's just a
Yeah.
matter that it is still crawling. It will take shape
Oh,
in near future. Probably it will start running as a young kid. It
okay.
depends how organization or how industry really adopts it. If they understand this context, what we were talking about, right?
Right.
Probably next 1 year of time frame, it will start running as a young boy, maybe an athlete,
Thank you.
right?
Okay, Praveen, you can ask your question. I have unmuted yourself. You?
I think it was Praveen only.
Yes, I no, no, that
Oh,
was asked by Srinidhi. This
oh,
is
okay.
Praveen this side. Uh, Vishal, thank you for your insights. So just I wanted to confirm, I mean, need information regarding this AI ops. So I'm working as a NOC lead in the telecommunication sector, where
Hmm.
recently we have taken initiative. I mean, my organization is taking initiative where in the service now we are implementing some now assist agents, which will help us to
Hmm.
summarize and all this stuff. So concerning this, just I wanted to confirm that as a ops manager in coming days, like whether I need to understand like how AI ops is working, or I need to learn these tools. I mean which we are using right now. And is there
Okay,
any global certification available for AI ops? Like for how we are ITIL, we have Axelos, right?
start.
So such any global certification available for this AI ops roles?
Okay, let's go by one. If you really ask me, and if you take my opinion, you learning about the tools is always good. What makes me really comfortable is like if I really understand the theory first, because that sets up the context. See, tools today, like I said, right, when I was talking about my initial data center experience, right, We
Right.
just had one tool, that was Nagios, and that was very basic tool at that point in time. And I'm talking about 2004, 2005, 2006, 2008. And there were hardly any monitoring tools, maybe two or three tools, which was indicated in the DevOps, life cycle. But today you look at it, you have tons of tools, thousands of tools which are coming into picture. Always remember that, don't put, and that is the reason I was very specific during the webinar. Don't stay focused on the tools. Try and understand the terminologies first. That sets up the context. Once you understand the basics of it, you learning the tool, probably it is going to be just on your fingertips, right?
Right.
To answer your third question, yes, there are a lot of learning global certifications, right? Knowlathon, the way Shraddha was talking about, right? We are a golden partners with PeopleCert. PeopleCert has acquired DevOps Institute, and they are giving you a foundation level of learning on AIOps foundation. And that's a certification oriented learning, but it talks about lots and tons of basic concepts, which probably we hear about it, but we really don't understand what exactly it is all about. I'll just give an example. We interchangeably use the terms like outputs and outcomes. Do you really understand what does it really mean? There is a thin line difference. So when you really learn about these basics, right, you using that terminology and understanding the tools perspective makes a lot of sense. So does that answer your question?
Yes, yes. Really
Right,
helpful that. Thank you.
right. So there is, you can speak to Shraddha, or maybe you can connect with Knowledge for any
Yes,
global learnings.
definitely. Yes, definitely. Also, I'm adding the link to our AIOps certification website so that you can read more about it and get a better understanding of it. Anyone else? Any more questions?
Okay, I think we are good.
I think, yeah, we have covered up. We have Gopal, you want to say anything?
Yes, maybe if I'm allowed, I can ask one more question to Vishal
Yeah.
because that's an opportunity. Vishal, I think a few months back I was just looking for AI ops, and I got to know that AI ops is not only limited from detection to the resolution of the alerts, what we have been talking. It was more about the other ITSM parts as well. So is it your understanding as well, or maybe I was getting
Now, I'll tell you.
confused somewhere?
I'll tell you. You're right. What you heard is right, and that is one of the reason. If you look at it, IDIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, right? After 2020, they released IDL 4, right? But immediately in next not even 6 years, within 5 years of time frame, they released ideal v5, which is completely taking a base of ideal 4 only. The frameworks is still same, but they realized the fact that there is something called as a IT AI governance, right, which they have included specifically as a separate learning. So Gopal, what you have heard is absolutely correct. It is not about detection and resolution. It is all about you having AI reflection into your governance as well. So it is going beyond that detection and resolution. And in detection and resolution, it does not try and understand. It does not give you a correct answer to your questions. If you look at ChatGPT, right, it specifically says that it depends on your prompt, what you're putting in over there. It says that ChatGPT can make mistakes. They are specifically calling it out. The reason for that, depending on your prompts, it can give you multiple options. Now it's to your context, you need to select the right option, right? So Similarly, it is not only limited and restricted to detection and resolution, it is now getting used all across. It is getting reflected everywhere. But always remember, Gopal, it's not taking the human intervention out of context. What AI is generating needs to be reviewed by the humans. So if you have that understanding that AI will replace the humans, no. Humans, they have created the AI, and we are the people who is maturing it further by giving more data subsequently over the period of time. Right. So that's the background story. What you really need to keep it in mind. Make sense, Gopal? You with me?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm completely with you. And maybe that I have a follow-up for Shraddha then. So the AI
Yes.
certification that we are looking for from Knowlathon. So is it only limiting to towards detection and the alert management, or is it covering the other part of ITIL as well?
It talks about the basic concepts throughout. It is
Right.
not about detection. It introduces you to some of the tools as well, which is, and it explains the usage of those tools with certain case studies, real time case studies. And that's the best part of that. So it may not teach you all the tools. It lets you know which tools can be used and the way those tools were effectively used by specific organizations who are well recognized. They are well known, like Reuters, or possibly you have Amazon, or possibly Netflix, how they have matured substantially over the period of time. So that's it sets up the context, creates a clarity on the basic concepts of AI ops.
All right. Yep. Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vishal. Thank
Absolutely.
you,
Yep.
Shraddha.
Thank you.
All right.
Any more questions? I will take a last question now. Okay, I think all the questions are answered. So first of all, thank you, Vishal sir, for the insightful and wonderful session. Uh, Really, a lot of doubts got cleared for me as well. And also thank you to everyone who have joined us today, and for those who have participated in the Q&A. With them, I think others could get the answers they wanted to ask questions for. So thank you again, Vishal sir, for sharing your experience and insights with us, and to everyone who have joined us. We hope today's session has give you clearer understanding of where AI ops fits into the future of IT operations and in your work. If you have found today's session useful, I encourage you to stay connected with Knowlathon for more expert-led sessions on emerging technologies, IT practices, and professional development. So that's it for today, and have a great evening. And we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.